Welcome, this is Dr. Plague, and today we'll be taking a look at the very first composite video generating circuit that I ever designed and built up. I've decided that I'm going to break this up into more than one video. In this first video, I'll just talk a little about the circuit you're about to see and then demonstrate its functionality. In the second video, I'll show you the full schematic and explain in detail exactly how it works. I had to try to find this and dig this thing out. You see, this circuit is probably close to 30 years old, and I'm surprised it survived all the moves from house to house throughout the years, because this thing was not easy to pack up, and it required gentle handling. This is something that once you see, it will definitely require some explanation, but you also need to understand what the purpose of this circuit was. This circuit was never intended to wow anyone. It had one main purpose, and that was to test out an idea that I had. I wanted to see if I could actually create a composite video signal that successfully displayed an image on an analog TV screen. That's it. The picture is static. It doesn't change. Also, it's in black and white. I didn't start creating color signals right away. But this circuit would prove out an idea that I came up with. You see, I used to use dedicated video ICs like this MC6847 video display generator to connect up to my homemade computer circuits. And I only had 2 of these. What if one of them died on me? Then I would only have one left. And what if that one stopped working? These ICs were hard to come by, and I didn't have any backups. So I decided to journey into developing my own circuits. That way, I wouldn't need to depend on sourcing obsolete ICs. And as far as these MC6847s, we'll play around with one in a future video to try to get a sense of the capabilities of it for coming up with ideas for our own future circuits. So, what's under this anti-static bag here is the first circuit that I ever came up with that generated a composite video signal without the use of dedicated video generating ICs. I guarantee this is not going to look neat or pretty. So, prepare to laugh. And without further ado, here it is. Let's see what Mrs. Plague thinks of it.
What am I looking at? Did R2-D2 throw up a little?
Actually, I think it was C3PO.
Ah, that's it.
Look at this thing. This is wild. I'll try to add in some pauses to give you a better view of it. This is just nuts. I actually soldered these ICs hanging in the air. I think those wires are just twisted together. I don't see any solder on them. You know what? I see something here. There's a disconnected wire. Let me try to get a better view of it. See, that wire should connect right over there. We'll have to fix that. It's probably one of the craziest builds you've ever seen. Yeah, so, I'm not quite sure what else to say about it. But, there it is. This build is what's called desperation, when you want to get something working so badly that you're not willing to wait for the correct parts. Now, let's get that disconnected wire fixed. Okay, so let's get this wire over here. And I'm not normally this shaky. It's just hard to do with the camera in the way. Okay, now let's try to dab a little solder on it. Oops, touched the dip socket. Okay, there we go. Let's connect power to it. Now, the power jack is down here, but I'll just connect right into the breadboard. I'm going to send it 9 volts. There's a 7805 regulator on this board that'll output 5 volts to the rest of the circuit. So, there's the ground and the power connection. Now, the output signal going to the TV comes from right here, and this is the ground wire for the signal. So I'm just going to connect this RCA connector up, and I'll just use an alligator clip to connect the wires together. And I'll do the same thing with the ground wire. Now, before we connect this thing up to a TV input, because it's so old, I'd like to make sure the video output from it looks correct on an oscilloscope. After all, we did find one disconnected wire. There could be others. So let's apply power. And yeah, that looks like a good signal thus far. We're looking at the vertical retrace here. Let's scroll through some lines. Here we get to some picture lines. It looks like a straight white signal thus far. Here we get some interesting stuff. This signal looks good. I think we're ready to connect it to a TV. I have an old tube TV over here that we'll use to display its output. And unless this TV stops working, this will be the one that I'll use in future videos to test out circuits. So, what's this thing going to display? I'll be honest, it's not too interesting. It's basically just a simple geometric shape. Remember, this was just a circuit to test out an idea, so I wasn't looking to create anything too elaborate. But I'll tell you what it is. It's an uppercase letter from the English alphabet. I'll connect it to the TV and see if you can guess which letter it is. There, did you figure it out? It's the letter H. Why? Well, I'll talk about that later. But we can see that this circuit works with an older analog TV. How about a digital TV? Will it work with one of those? Let's try it on this one that I have here. I'll connect the signal up to it. Then apply power. Yeah, it works just fine on this TV. Now, if you saw my last video, then you know that my Tektronix scope can also display the images from video signals. So, does it work on the scope? Well, here it is. The signal is a little noisy, but it does work. So that was a demonstration of the very first composite video generating circuit that I ever designed. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering, why does it look the way it does? Well, I came up with the idea and I was very anxious to test it out. Now, you have to remember, this was about 30 years ago. The internet was just getting started. You couldn't go out and just buy parts as easily as you can today. Today, you can just go online, quickly and easily find the parts you need and place the order. That's not how it was back in my day. We had catalogs and mail order back then. I remember looking through printed catalogs from Mauser and such. And whenever I placed an order, I would need to call an 800 number and order it that way. Or I could fill out an order form and send it through the mail, which took a little longer. Now, I didn't have all the ICs that I needed to test out my idea, but I knew someone who worked for Arrow Electronics. I gave that person a list of the parts I needed and offered to pay for them. But that person just gave them to me as free samples. So, very nice of him to do that. Anyway, back then I didn't think about surface mount parts. Everything I ever used were dip versions. So I forgot to specify that I wanted dip parts. When the Arrow employee handed me the parts, they were surface mount parts. He offered to get me the correct parts, but I felt bad that he already gave me the surface mount parts for free, so I told him that I'd make use of them. Besides, I didn't want to wait any longer to build this circuit. The suspense was building up. So I had to figure out a way to use surface mount parts on a breadboard. And at the time, without really knowing what else to do, I just grabbed the parts, a solder iron, and some wire. The rest is history. So, why an H for the image? Well, I had to program the image into a flash memory chip. And at the time, I was doing all this manually by typing the data into a text file for programming. I didn't want anything too complicated, but I wanted some type of a shape to demonstrate the output. By making several lines that were identical, I could copy and paste lines in the text file. And remember, I was in a rush to get this thing working. I was anxious to see if my idea worked, so I just created a simple letter H, and that's pretty much it. So remember, in the next video I'll share the full schematic and explain exactly how this thing works. We'll take a deep dive into it. Now, I still need to draw the schematic up for you, which means I need to reverse engineer the circuit. It's a fairly simple circuit, but I want to be as accurate as possible. So this will take me some time, especially since I don't have much free time to begin with. So please don't be surprised if it takes a little while before my next video comes out. With that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, right here on Dr. Plague.